转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato sa.
Namo tassa bhagavato.
Homage to the, go ahead, homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfect enlightened one.
Namo saranto suchedoye alahadi sammyao samputoshe.
Namo satanto suchedoye alahati samyao sambutoshye.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Alrighty, Paul, thank you for the Dharma request. Glad that you could unmute and join in. The CISOP has to approve of your muting or unmuting. So that's beyond your control. I'm glad you were patient. It all worked out just fine. So welcome everybody once again. We are going to be looking into the Flower Garland Sutra. And no, we're not. That's a mistake. We're going to be looking into Master Empty Cloud's picture biography. Flower Garland Sutras tomorrow and the next day. So this is Xuyun Lecture画传. And I want to say that 如果各位呢，你们想听一种流利的普通话的翻译呢，就那个控制板的右下角有一个叫小地球，那里说 interpretation， 是不是？你按那个钮就找到 Chinese， 就可以听到中文的翻译。所以呢，欢迎。Also, if you would like to hear a Vietnamese translation, there is a link right there in the control panel in your chat box, and that will give you a link to the Vietnamese translation. Also, should anybody like to be the Dharma requester in a future lecture, you can send an email to Chan Yu, who is our tireless, fearless coordinator, and she will happily give you instructions. You can request in one language or in both languages, up to you. Alrighty. So today, I'm happy to say that we have participants from here in Australia, in the Gold Coast, from Ukiah, California, from, let's see here, Brian is in Campbell, California, Celeste in Hong Kong, Christine and Punzor in LA, Connie's in Sunnyvale, Cynthia's in Saratoga, Duke Levan's in Montreal, Edna's in Singapore, let's see, Elaine is in Ukiah, Emmy is in Singapore, let's see here, Mr. Guo is in Liaoning, Fanny's in Seattle, Heng Chan, Basher is here from HQ, where else? Let's see here, Mr. Zuo is in Guangdong, we have friends from Tianjin, from Berkeley, from Malaysia, from Shandong, from Singapore again, from LA, from Zhuhai, from St. Petersburg, Florida. Michael, glad you're here with us. Sun Mingfan is from Taipei, Mesa, Arizona, Pinot, California, Seattle, Oklahoma, San Jose, Vietnamese channel, from Virginia, from Colorado. Bill, glad you're back. YC is in Ukiah. Let's see here. Chofu Fun is in Taipei. All right, and then we switch over to the other half of the world, and people are here from Beijing, Harbin, Beijing, Liaoning, Xi'an, 哪里？还有安徽宿州。今天安徽就是虚云老和尚所去的地方。双河西、山西宝鸡、福建泉州、吉林、淮南市、安徽、黑龙江、北京、哈尔滨、新疆，哎，欢迎洛阳 and let's see from Zhejiang, Haining. Good. Welcome everybody. Glad you're here. We've got a lovely Chinese translation for those of you who want it. And we respectfully acknowledge the Kombu-Meri people of the Ugambi language region as traditional storytellers and custodians of the land where the monastery is located. We pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and also to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. 就说我们恭敬地承认Ugambi语族的贡布马里人，他们是我们寺院所在地的传统叙事者和守护人，这里在 Australia。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。Okay. And here we go. The bells sound wide, resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000劫内，佛扬万亿国中，共训其法界和平，利益报他诺后德。Maybe I should make a New Year's resolution that this year I'll learn to do the bell song the right way. Just to say in Chinese. Maybe, we'll see. Okay, today is a very special day because Master Empty Cloud is going to Jiuhuashan. And on the way to Jiuhuashan, he passes by Lushan. And it's special for me because I have stories from both Lushan and from Jiuhuashan. So we're going to investigate Master Empty Cloud's episodes, but I'm going to add 2 stories of my own, which I hope people will find interesting. And then I want to wish everybody happy holidays coming up, because we're here in Australia, we're just 4 days from Christmas, 5 days in North America. And holiday seasons are always a mixture of joy and other emotions, because the expectations are high, and often if they're not met, then there's lots of suffering that happens in those situations. And it's very much a Buddhist principle, which is desire unsatisfied turns to anger, anger unrecognized turns to acts of delusion, right? We just express ourselves physically, violently, emotionally, and suffering as a result. So that's one of the Buddha's fundamental principles, and we can see it written, as they say, in like a Dazi Bao during holiday season. So, alrighty, here we go. Here's today's first encounter. We actually went quickly through it last week, but I wanted to make sure that we get all the goodness in these stories. Here we are. Master Empty Cloud is 50 years old. It's 1889, it's the 19th century. He is traveling through central China. Okay, 九江鹿山海会寺. Okay. So I will, let's see here. How about if I read 4 characters and you give them back to me? Let's do that, okay? No need to put palms together. These are not the Buddha's words. Here we go. 处兄辅行，大家说，处兄辅行，经昆明府，取经府，达贵州省，寻道东行，入湘西，达衡阳，离衡智和尚，至湖北，宝通寺，礼智摩和尚，学大悲忏法币，赴九江，入庐山，礼智善和尚，于海会寺，参加念佛法会道场。Okay, so that's anything here in the Chinese. So what's Master Empty Cloud doing? He is returning from the southern route to, instead of telling you, I will show you right here. Okay, here is Jiujiang right here, and this is Lushan, and you can see here is Nanchang. Nanchang is the gateway to Zhenru Si, Yunzhishan Zhenru Si, which is right here. So this is the heartland of Chinese Buddhism to get you oriented. Here is Hangzhou, here is Shanghai, here is Ningbo, here is Wuhan, and Master Empty Cloud was just down here not long ago in Myanmar, down in Rangoon. He was over here in Tibet not long before that, and he traveled up through, let's see here, here is Dali. He went to Jizushan, which is in this area here by this lake. That was the Silver Lake. And he said at that point that he really was ready to go back to where people speak Chinese and eat food he's used to and have similar thoughts to his. So he passed through Kunming to Jiujiang, and as we will come up there, he traveled back to his father's home in Hunan. So his father was from Hunan, and that was his, let's see now, I gotta find myself where I am again here. Going north, Chongqing to, let's see here. Here we are. Here we go. So he traveled all the way across China, on foot, mind you, and he winds up in both Jiangxi and Anhui. These are the 2 mountains here that we're going to read about, we're going to hear about today. So Lushan is here, and then Jiuhua, 9 Flowers, is up here, so people can see where we are. This is the Lushan scenic spot. Let's take a look at the what the English said. The master walked through the prefectures of Chuxiong, Kunming, and Qujing to Guizhou. He went east to Shaanxi and Hengyang, and he bowed to a monk whose name was Heng Zhi. Then he went to Baotong Monastery in Hubei, bowed to the abbot Zhimo, who apparently, I don't have details on this, but apparently Master Zhimo was an expert in the Dabei Chan, repentance. Now, that's particularly significant for us who, following our teacher's encouragement, bowed the Great Compassion Repentance every day at City of 10,000 Buddhas. Thinking back, actually, in the early days at Gold Mountain Monastery back in the mid 70s, when I first showed up, it wasn't Dabe Chan that we bowed, it was Medicine Buddha Repentance, Yao Shu Chan, where we would take one scroll of the 3-scroll Medicine Buddha Repentance in English every Saturday. And I was a graduate student and would be doing projects and research in the library from Monday to Friday, but on Saturday, I had started going to Gold Mountain Monastery. And one of the first most important things that drew me in was the English language repentance ceremony of Medicine Buddha. And it was so powerful to be able to combine repentance liturgies include bowing, reciting, kneeling, making offerings, singing, and just kind of bathing in the phrases of the Dharma. So it's a very wonderful ceremony because it's physical. You do things. It's not just reading a sutra. It's not just bowing only. It combines all those different elements. And so definitely a door into the Dharma, into the community, opened for me at Gold Mountain Monastery by bowing the Medicine Buddha Repentance. Later, we tried other repentances, Earth Store, the Water Repentance of Great Compassion, of course the 10,000 Buddhas Repentance, then the Emperor Liang Repentance. And the reason that they came slowly was we didn't know them. We didn't know how to do them. We hadn't learned how to bow those repentances. Of all of the repentances that we did, 10,000 Buddhas became a standard because of City of 10,000 Buddhas annually, because it takes 21 days to do it one time. And the Great Compassion, Dabe Chan, which takes not quite 2 hours, takes about 90 minutes, depending on the speed that you bow. And it includes 21 Great Compassion mantras as you bow the Great Compassion Repentance. So there's lots of particular dharmas to appreciate in the Great Compassion Repentance. Master Empty Cloud was learning it from the abbot whose name was Zhimo Fa at Baotong Si. Then he went on to Lushan in Zhejiang, paid respect to the Master Zhishan Haihui Monastery. They were doing a separate dharma called Buddha recitation, Nianfo, so which we're very familiar with. And that's what he was doing. So, meeting these different practices in Buddhist China. Here he is looking up. You can see the wind is blowing. He's out there in the wilds, which he preferred. That was he's very much at home on the mountains, in the woods, in the bush. So that's a lovely illustration. Master Hua wrote a verse to commemorate, and it's Lu Shan. You do it together? 我们一起哈。庐山碧树甚清凉，远近知名有客忙。至善住持海会寺，念佛法会净土堂。Beautiful verse. Lushan's shelter from hot weather is a cool and refreshing place. It's famous near and far and always full of tourists. The Venerable Master Abbot Zhishan of Haihui Monastery held a Buddha recitation assembly in the Pure Land Hall. Now, last week I was in Taipei and was surrounded by about 200 people at Fajie Yinjing Hui in Taipei. And we were able to set it up so that, because the lecture time in Taiwan is 11:30, and everybody, they did the Shanggong, and then everybody waited half an hour while I lectured for an hour. So lunch was late, we fed them Dharma instead, so that people could be, you know, 禅悦为师，法喜充满, full of the joy of Dharma. So that was fun to have to do a large-scale live lecture, and I spoke my own Chinese and English because we didn't have, folks couldn't see the screen there. We didn't have a screen. So, but we saw the screen, but we didn't have the translation devices. So I did both languages. And because this was the first time people had kind of seen this lecture, except for a few individuals who are on with us today. So I did the greatest hits, most exciting moments from Master Empty Cloud's pilgrimage, which included being saved from a life and death situation by the Bodhisattva Manjushri. So that was last week. Now we're back with the consecutive lectures as he travels on. And what have we got? We've got 9, so Lu Shan. Now, I wanted to share something about Lu Shan because when I visited, of course, there's the famous Pure Land monastery there. It's just lost my brain. Not Jing'an Si, Dongling Si. And Dongling Si is said to be the Zu Ting of the Pure Land, the home of Pure Land practice. And there's, as you go in the main door of Dongling Si, Eastern Forest, Eastern Grove Monastery is called. They have the list of all the famous monks in Chinese Buddhist history who have lived there and cultivated there, and it's just this astonishing list of the greatest monks of Chinese Buddhist history over the centuries and centuries. So Lu Shan itself is a spectacular mountain, and not only Buddhists are there, but Confucians have a long history with, here we are, with Mount Lu, and the famous poet Su Dongpo, Su Shi, wrote, 横看成岭侧成峰，远近高低各不同，不是庐山真面目，只缘身在此山中。 Translated, he said, 他怎么说呢？他说你横着看就侧着看就有名，这个地方太有名了，就说大家知道这个庐山，可是呢，你真的要想知道庐山的本来的样子是什么呢？你看不到，为什么？因为你的身体已经站在庐山。大家特别喜欢这首诗，因为你就对了，意思是说什么？这个你站在庐山上，当然看不到庐山在哪里。意思是说，你如果要看那个真实的状况，可能要往后退一步，你才知道你要改变你的透视观，就可以了。And so the point of this, why did I say that in Chinese? I'll give you a break. That's your bone. We'll dock your salary for that much. So the point of this is the verse goes like this. When you look at it from the side, it's a whole range of mountains. If you look at it lengthwise, it's just one peak. But you turn it this way, and suddenly you realize, wow, this is much more than you thought. Far, near, high, low, no matter how you look at it, it's different every time you look. If you really want to know what Mount Lu looks like, you can't tell it because while you're standing on Mount Lu. So this poem became everybody's favorite about Lu Shan because Su Shi, the poet, was saying, you don't see the forest for the trees. That's the you can't, this is the phrase, can't see the forest for the trees. You want to see the forest, you say, oh, there are too many trees in the way, so I can't see the forest. Well, the trees in the forest are the same. They're identical, but one tree or the forest depends on how you look at it. Change your perspective, and suddenly things look different, although you're looking at the very same thing. So this became, the Buddhists adopted this phrase to talk about somebody who was blind to the obvious. You know, you're saying, I can't see the sun. Where's the sun? The sun's gone. Well, take your hands away. Oh, there's the sun. It didn't go anywhere, but you were blind to it, right? So that's Mount Lu. And there's one more thing, that I went to Mount Lu and really was looking for this, and I was so glad that I was able to see this, because this is something I heard about from Shifu. The Bai Lu Dong Shu Yuan, the White Deer Hollow, the White Deer Grotto Academy regulations from students by Zhu Xi. Zhu Xi was a Neo-Confucianist who he took old Confucius sayings and put them into Chinese culture. And these, if anybody likes like epithets or sayings or homilies, you know, these handy sayings that explain so much in a few words, here is one set. What is it? Relationships. 父子有亲, let there be affection between father and son, or father and daughter. 臣君有义, let there be righteousness between the ruler and the minister, those who serve. 夫妇有别, husband and wife should pay attention to their specific roles in supporting the family. 长幼有序, let old and young keep a precedence. Let the old and young have their respective roles. 朋友有信, trust between friends. These are called 五教. These are the 5 teachings that do what? Keep things in shape. Keep the family, keep the country, keep the company, keep your relationships in order. Fathers and children, rulers and ministers, husband and wife or partners, old and young, and friends. When you have affection, so father and son, father and daughter, shouldn't be distant, shouldn't be harsh. This turns around a tradition in China of a yan fu, of the fierce, strict father. This is, you want qin, you want a bond of affection. And minister and the minister and the ruler wants to have yi. Yi means doing what's right. And it works both ways. So I make no comments about contemporary situation. Okay, and the bie here means there is this is Zhu Xi, the Neo-Confucian. He's looking at a cosmic order and bringing it down into the realm of humans. Confucianism is not stuffy. Confucianism, Neo-Confucianism, definitely had an eye open to the universe. So why? They were competing with the Taoists and the Buddhists. By the 12th century, Buddhism had totally taken over China at this point. So in order to compete, you could say, as a system of value for society, the Neo-Confucians had to adopt and adapt. One of the most famous was Wang Yangming, right? Wang Shouren. He was a meditator. So they taught Zuo Wang, their own tradition of Confucian meditation. Not just as a ploy to keep up with the Buddhists, but because at this point, meditation had taken deep root in Chinese society, and the Confucians organically also looked within instead of entirely without. So important changes, and this is Chinese interfaith, how you could be a Buddhist, a Confucian, and a Taoist in a single person and not have contradictions. So between partners, you need your own realm. Husband and wife, partners need the things that they are good at. You don't entirely merge. There are functions that, in order to keep the relationship going, need to be attended to. And this one is interesting. Generations. Xu means proper order. What comes first, what comes, or who comes first, who follows. Elders and youth. Interesting wisdom here that doesn't change. And then xin, this word that can be translated as trust or faithfulness among friends, also integrity, same word, also believability. Are you worthy of being believed? That's how you keep your friendships in line, how you keep your generations in line, how you keep your your partnership relationships in line, how you keep leadership and order in ruling, in governing in line, and how people and their elders keep relating through affection. These are so good and so valuable. This is the Confucian teachings of the Bai Lu Dong Shu Yan. And I don't know, Shifu introduced us to these, not as important as Buddhist teachings, but in a way, because in America, and I would maintain in Australia as well, are we ready for the Dharma if we don't even know how to be humans? Once you absorb the lessons of relationships from Confucian wisdom, you're ready to extend that into nature and the environment through Taoist wisdom, then you're ready to adapt it to all living beings in Buddhist wisdom, to the universe. So Master Hua gave us these lessons and said, apply these, learn these, at the same time you learn the Dharma. How do you study things? You 博学之, you 深问之, you 深思之, you 明辨之, you 笃行之. This is how you study. You look into it. You do your research. You think it over when you're not acquiring new information. You clearly distinguish it in your mind and in any teaching that you do of it. Then you put it into practice. You do it earnestly. And you know what? You've learned it. That's how you learn. These are people who Confucius said, 好学. This is how that got extended into the Song and the Ming dynasty and on to the present. So cultivation, 嗔分怒欲贤善改过. Shifu would teach us these. These are kind of the homilies or the epithets, the good words that the Neo-Confucians said are important for Xiushan, how you cultivate. Set your, let's see, 正其意, 不谋其利. Be righteous, don't seek profits. 明其道, 不计其功. Illuminate the way, don't look for results. So look, shine your light on the place you're walking. Don't worry about where it leads you. 处世之要, essentials for handling business. 己所不欲，勿施于人, the golden rule, that was really important. 心有不得，反求诸己. If you cultivate and nothing happens, look within. This is relationships. So anyway, everybody gets the idea. These are the teachings of Mount Lu. That's from Mencius, Fuzi Youqin. Okay, thanks, Yihuan. You always keep me honest here. That's good. So this is brought forward again. Mencius is the important follower after Confucius, and the Neo-Confucians, the Xinrujia, the these China's own interfaith with Confucianism, Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism had a renaissance in the Song dynasty with the Bailu, Shuidong, and other famous academies that produced generations of students. So that's on Mount Lu. And when you go to Lushan, there is also, interestingly, when this is a bit of history, when you go to the Bailu Shudong, you find not so much Neo-Confucianism, you find a lot of communist history. Why? Mao Zedong convened a famous meeting when the Communist Party was just getting underway in China in the same facility. So there's lots of plaques and memorials about that particular meeting, and so there's a tremendous amount of contemporary Chinese culture was rooted at Lushan, this beautiful mountain in Jiangxi. All right, back to our pilgrim. He is, where is he heading for? He's heading for Jiuhuashan. Oh boy, this is one of the famous 4 great mountains of Buddhism in China. It is 1889, he's still 50 years old, and it's Jiuhuashan Chao Dizang. Okay, I'll give you a line and you give it back to me. Are we ready? Here we go. 过安徽境，有黄山后，超九华山，礼地藏王菩萨塔，百岁宫，礼宝物和尚，此宫界恒经言，定力第一。两年来，身行万里，处渡海虚航外，于街步行，水翼山城，劲风日变，信月孤悬，不觉行旅苦。Okay, after entering Anhui province and visiting Huangshan, Yellow Mountain, the master traveled to Jiuhua Mountain and bowed to the stupa of Erstor Bodhisattva and Bai Sui Temple. He paid his respects to the Venerable Master Pao Wu, who strictly practiced and maintained, that's a typo, who strictly practiced and maintained the moral precepts, and as a result, had excellent samadhi power. In the past 2 years, the master traveled 10,000 miles. Except for crossing the ocean by ship, he'd walked every step of the way. He'd crossed rivers, scaled mountains. Although the scenery changed daily, his mind was as serene as the bright, solitary moon suspended in the sky. He seemed to not feel fatigued by traveling. Okay, so take a look here. He's now in Anhui. He's in Jiangsu province, in Anhui, on his way to Jiangsu. Huangshan is the famous Taoist mountain, and he made his way to Jiuhuashan. Jiuhuashan is here. Huangmei, this Lushan. Jiuhuashan is here. He's all the way up here. In Anhui. Okay, let's make it a little bigger. You can see that Jiuhuashan is in remote. I remember when I visited Jiuhuashan that you travel through mile after mile of twisty mountain roads, and it's quite wonderful to get there. So let's see, just to orient everybody, where are we? Here is Taiping Hu. Let's see here. Back off a little bit. A little further. Okay, here's Anqing. Huangshan is here. This is, he visited Yellow Mountain, Huangshan, the Taoist mountain. Beautiful scenery. Here we go. Okay, here is Hangzhou. Here's the East China Sea. And here is Jiuhuashan. So you get a kind of a sense of it, right? Shanghai is up here. Beijing is way up north. So here is Jiuhuashan, very remote. Huangshan is here. Okay, so that's the, get a feeling of it. So the thing about Jiuhuashan, of course, is the Bodhisattva Erstor, Dizalman Pusa. And here he meant, the biography mentions the famous monks who were there, to whom Master Empty Cloud bowed. Bao Wu Fa Shi, and the other monks that we just went through, who bowed the great compassion, repentance, etc. Now, this part of the biography mentions that he traveled 10,000 miles. Now that's Chinese miles. Pretty much you divide by 3, so 3,000 plus miles on foot, except the portion from Putoshan to the mainland, which he traveled by ship. The rest of the time, he made a big circle, bowing every 3 steps, all the way to Wutaishan, and then to Tibet, to Miandian, right, to Burma, then all the way up through Yunnan to Sichuan, and then back. So cross river scale mountains, and the scenery changed every day. He nearly died twice, was revived by Manjushri. His mind stayed as serene as the bright moon suspended in the sky, and traveling never tires him out. So that's our monk. Let's take a look at the picture. Here he is, bowing at Jiuhuashan. And the verse goes, Shifu's verse. We ready? Let's read it together. Here we go. 一波行起千家帆，孤身飘然万里游，各中自在生境界，殷勤顶礼问图陀。With his alms bowl, he received alms at 1,000 households, a solitary monk adrift along a 10,000-mile journey. Sovereign and at ease, his experiences were true. The master diligently bowed and practiced the way of the ascetic monk. Okay. All right. Now, I have a story from Jiuhuashan. I had the opportunity, thanks to Master Mingyao, the abbot of Longhua Si in Shanghai, and also monasteries in Beijing and other places. We had been invited to Longhua Si in Shanghai to take part in a precepts ordination, and at the end, we made a request, could we go visit the Sida Mingshan, the 4 holy mountains? Master Mingyao said, yes, I would happily make that possible. And we asked Master Hua's permission, Shiva said, of course. So we set out, and Jiuhuashan, we went first to Putoshan, then to Jiuhuashan, then to Emeishan, then to Wutaishan, the 4 mountains, and to Zhongnanshan as well. And this was 1989. And at Jiuhuashan, Jiuhuashan is the best mountain for mountain climbing. It's rugged back then. It hadn't been developed as the tourist destination that it has become. It's so popular now. Master Rende welcomed us. He was the He was the abbot. He showed us the Chan Hall. He showed us, told us all the stories of Jiuhuashan, Nine Flowers Mountain. And we were traveling as our companion with a monk who I will not name because I might get him in trouble. He is very well known now. He's now a big grown-up Dahuashan. But at the time, he was Master Mingyang's Shizhe. And just, he was younger than we were, just a great, happy spirit, really good with poetry and calligraphy, outstanding calligraphy. So he was told to accompany us. There were three of us at the time who went to Jinding, the golden summit at Jiuhuashan, the very peak. And we were told, don't go any further because it's the whole Shan area, the back area is kind of wild. Not, in other words, not under the control of the authorities yet. Too many hermits in the back. And of course, that's who we wanted to see. We really came to see if we could find some true Xuxingren, true cultivators. So we applied a little arm twisting and a little pressure on our companion, our guide, our young guide, said, you want to see cultivators, don't you? Let's go take a look. He's like, well, I guess it wouldn't matter as long as we're back on the right time. So we set off into the back area of Jiuhuashan, and we traveled and walked and walked and walked, didn't see anybody, didn't hear anything. Then we smelled wood smoke. Somebody was burning wood, and around the corner, here was this Buddhist monk. His hair was long, and his face was very weather-beaten, rugged kind of guy, wearing work robes. And he said, he says, follow me. We're like, oh, okay. So he turned a corner and went down a path that if he didn't show you, you wouldn't notice there was a path in the bushes there. So we followed around and came out on a mountain clearing, up on a mountain peak. Suddenly it didn't open to the front of Jiuhuashan, it opened to the back of Jiuhuashan. And he said, that guy over there, don't go near him. He doesn't talk. And we said, what? And here was a tall monk with skin sunburned so dark. He just, kind of backed into the shadows. He didn't want to have anything to do with us. There were 3 Western monks and 1 young Chinese monk at this point, 4 of us. And this monk who had met us on the path says, come over here, take a look. And he lifted up a tarp and he said, look, Gao Li Shen. He says, we're going ginseng here. It's not supposed to grow, but we can make it grow, he says. He was very proud of his crop of ginseng, Renshen. And then he said, let's go bow to the Buddha over there. And he took us to a hut and said, it's okay, you can go bow. And we went into the hut, and on the altar was a picture of Master Xuyun Lecture. There was a picture on this altar. He says, you're from Wanpocheng, right? And we're like, how did you know that? We didn't say, He said, never mind, that's all right. He says, that's okay. So we all bowed to Shifu's picture and the Buddha in this makeshift malpong that he said. And then he said, you got to go. He says, you're going to get in trouble if you're late. So we're like, how does this go? And he said, I have a question for you, though. He says, when I fly by, I see this city with huge streets, big, broad streets and giant gates. He says, they're speaking a language I don't understand. He says, is that Paris, France? And we're like, maybe so. He says, I was just wondering. Okay, he says, get out of here. And so, and suddenly we turn around and like the path through the bushes, couldn't find it again. And so we're like, how much time passed? We better get back. So we go hiking back the way we came, scratching, who was that? What did we just, and so we get to Jinding, and here is the layman who told us not to go out past where we'd just been, and he had his arms crossed, and he looked at the monk who was our guide, shaking his head, "You're in trouble." He says, so we're like, that's okay, that was worth it, you know. So we've kept in touch with the monk who was our guide over the years, and he was only in trouble briefly. He got, you know, things changed for him. He was Master Mingyang's attendant, and he got promoted up ahead. So it was okay. But this tradition of magical hermits has never ended in China. And as we asked further, when we got down to Master Renda, who had been to CTDB, he was one of the ones who came in '87, 2 years earlier, and was a wonderful monk. We said, "Renda Zhanglao, Lao Heshang, how can monks survive on their own in the back?" And he said, "Yeah, except the way it works on the mountains is if you register with the Buddhist Association, they will provide you a minimum amount of rice and oil, you and me, and that's what they give you. And if you need like shoes or something, or if you're sick, they will take care of you. If you don't register, you can hide out, but you don't get any help. You don't get any rice, you don't get any oil or help. You're on your own entirely." And he said and pretty much the government doesn't care about you because you're no harm. If you can survive out on the, in the boondocks like that. So that was his answer. So yeah, Jiuhuashan is a place where real cultivators are still 用功办道, right? They're still working hard, and the way to see. Now this was Jiuhuashan. It's not Zhongnanshan. We had pictures of Zhongnanshan closer to Xi'an, out further west, because Ted Berger took his camera out, inspired by Bill Porter's stories of pilgrims from his book Amongst White Clouds. And so Ted read Bill's book about the hermits and took his camera out and found them on Zhongnanshan. And you can see that movie. It's called Amongst White Clouds. And then it is recently reissued as The Mountain Path. And I'll put that in the chat box in case anybody missed those lectures. The Mountain Path, and it's Common Folk Films. Common Folk Films. You can purchase it or rent it to watch. Common Folk Films. Oh, let's see here. I want to send that to everybody, so let me do that. Everyone in the meeting. There we go. Okay, there it is. The Mountain Path will show you not Jiuhuashan, but Zhongnanshan, which is just a little further west. But the conditions are the same to meet those real cultivators who are still giving up everything that the world will tell you you need to live meaningfully, money and fame and conveniences. While the pilgrims and the hermits on those mountainsides show you that you can live with very little and find tremendous meaning and value in human life. So Master Empty Cloud is just the one that he is the pilgrim, as Master Hua's poem says. He's the ascetic whom everyone looks to for their inspiration as an ascetic. It's, he says, 各种自在真境界，殷勤顶礼问妥妥。Sovereign and at ease, his experiences were true. The master diligently bowed and practiced the way of the ascetic. So those folks, that path is still there. People are still doing it. And walking, we had to disobey the orders of the minders who just wanted to keep themselves out of trouble, didn't want to have any kind of inconvenience. But we, took our chance to be on top of Nine Flowers Mountain and met real cultivators who somehow knew about Master Xuyun Lecture. Who knew how that would happen? But pretty amazing. Alrighty, thank you for joining. We will be back with you next week. This series is not going to take a break over the winter. We're going to continue. And also tomorrow is the entering the Dharma realm. We get to hear from Sudana about the questions. He is requesting Dharma. We get to know what he really wants from his pilgrimage. So make sure you're there for that. Don't miss it. Should we dedicate merit? Here we go. Please make a wish. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, lay our minds away to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. And before we quit, we will bow to the Buddhas. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. That's going to do it for